Whoa. Hi, friends. I know somebody's in the house. Um, I found him. Ah! My phone fell. Sorry. Ignore that. I found him. I see him. Hold on, let me just... Perfect. This is perfect. This is a perfect fucking thing. This is great. Oh. You get up on the chair? Um. Hey.
Hey.
Oh, they took away
Can
groups!
you give us a
I'm gonna
second?
throw myself in a fucking
Alan.
ditch.
Alan. We're so fucked.
Why would they take away groups? We're just grouping up in our own little thing.
Yeah. Look.
Potatoes!
Potatoes.
Man,
And
this
we
is...
have
This...
child villager.
A
Zombie.
child?
A child.
Where did we... Oh, we got a child.
I've been trying to get another chicken jockey.
Yeah, I saw you run from the mob farm while I was loading up stream.
Look at the name. The name I'll give them.
Oh my god. No.
Yes.
No.
Chicken.
Soon he will be ready. Yeah, no, why would they take away groups when it's just us grouping up in our own little areas? So that we
Oh
can
no.
talk and work. That's my biggest gripe. That's my biggest gripe. Because I'd like to be able to chat with you while we're working in separate areas. Can't do that.
Uh,
Especially if I'm streaming and Discord doesn't work on my, like, while I'm streaming.
what?
Because it'll just crash my PC. Because, you know, my PC is
Damn.
garbage. Um, yeah.
Damn. Oh, so I have to do like a little bit more of terraforming here because trying to close the gap there.
Yeah. That's fine.
And I'll be streaming shortly.
E.
I'm just watching the Mighty Nine.
Oh, did that finally get released? Would you
Yes,
watch it?
I'm watching the third episode.
Not for you. Bad. Sorry, Roxy found a pencil. Started chewing on it.
Ba. Ugh, yikes.
Whew. Huh? Me messaging Paraday immediately.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, the group feature is useful, especially like
Yeah.
if you're across and you get another chicken jockey. Yeah, typing works, but it's slower.
Probably
Especially
was
down there.
someone tried to make a group chat that from different teams.
Okay, well then just put a rule down that you can't do that, and then we won't do it. We're adults. We know. We listen. We're not little
Do we?
kids.
Do we?
We're
Are we?
adults, and we will listen to the rules. We're not 5.
I am an I need an adult here adult.
Irony,
Yes.
you're the oldest one in the fucking server. I don't want to hear shit from you. All right. All right.
Why do you have to say that?
Well, because it's true. Well, because it's true. I'm gonna turn down my amp.
Mean.
No, it's not mean if it's truthful. Well, it can be mean if it's truthful, actually.
Mean.
But yeah, no, like if Paradise says, "Hey, don't make groups like for other members to join that aren't in your group,"
I mean,
we're not gonna do
I'm
that, you
guessing
know?
that just. I'm just guessing that that's what probably happened.
You know, and
Do you,
that's
do you want
fair.
more fishing rods?
Oh my god, there's so many. Oh my god. Oh my god. Look at the sea. Look at that. I was bending on it, but look at the sea. Only takes a reason to kill.
What the fuck?
Anyway, don't mind me reorganizing the chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, if something happens across over the mob farm, I can't come help you.
Huh?
If something happens over across the mob farm, I can't come help you because I won't know until it's too late.
I'll type then.
Until it's too late. You typing takes 10 years.
Yes.
Lay down, babe. Need you. Relax. Calm down. Stay down. Okay. This is for you. This is my pillow. I'm adjusting. Yeah. Oh, let me adjust. Yeah. Stay. Right, I was down there.
Ew. Ew.
What?
Ew. Ew.
What?
Ew.
What?
What the fuck did he turn them into?
Oh yeah, you're
Ugh.
watching. Yeah, you're watching the thing.
The frog spit like a dart, and I think it turned the person into a kobold.
Which? So what episodes have come out?
Is it a kobold? Wait, I don't know. It looks like a frog mixed with a reptile.
I would have. Oh god, I don't remember. Is it not just a lizard folk?
I don't know. It's like a elf girl that controls a giant frog. A hell frog?
God. Listen, it's been so long since I've watched season 2 of Critical Role. I don't know.
Wait. Oh, okay. I haven't seen the campaign yet.
Bro's going into this without watching the campaign.
Of course.
Okay, I did that with Vox Machina.
Same. You can teleport with water?
Well, that seems about right.
It's the sword, right? The sword is the. I don't know if it was something that was chasing them in the water that made them. I love Jessie.
Oh, Josie, beloved.
She's a pervert. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Gustav is no longer a person. Ah, it's a lizard with a mustache. Uh-oh. Why is he naked?
Oh, you know, reasons.
The lizard. Oh no. Okay, is dressed. You told them to break a leg, not to cut them. Uh-oh. You killed your love. Uh-oh.
I was out here yapping. Did you watch Vox Machina?
I watched.
Hold on,
Yes.
sorry. Ink's in chat. I set my phone to the side like a goober.
Eh.
So I was typing. I did watch Vox Machina. I haven't finished it, but I did watch it. Part of it.
Oh no, his tear froze.
I think I got just past the Briarwood arc with the vampires. So that like first arc with Percy.
I'll be right back.
You're good.
You know, duty calls.
You're good. Also, Ink, don't worry about what this is. Mind your business. Good for the most part. Yeah, no, I don't mind the Briarwood arc. I think it could be better, but that's just me. Not mind my business. Yeah, you will. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Also, we're back to not having groups, Ink, in the server. I didn't say shit about taking your blood. You relax. So I did message Faraday about it. Hehe. No, I messaged Faraday about it. Yeah, no, I like the group aspect of a voice chat because, especially, like, my PC can't handle being on Discord plus Minecraft plus stream at the same time. Normally, right? Like, it struggles so bad. So having the group chat function on like a voice chat is really useful for me. You know, and I've expressed this before that like my PC can't handle having all three things open. It can barely handle. Oh my god, there's so many fucking saddles. We're done with the saddles. Like it can barely handle having having Discord. Like it can barely handle having the stream in Minecraft open, you know. It's not gonna handle having all three open. And the group chat function just it's so nice and it's useful and you know. So I think it's bullshit that gets taken away from us. And I'll say it to their face. I don't care. I think it's bullshit. Oh yeah, ink. Guess what we got now? Potatoes. We got potatoes. We need to go out and go mining. Need more iron. Go down. Let's see. Go here. You're too fat. Ah. Oh, iron. Me's just like, I don't want to touch that. Hello? Oh, alright. Cool. I haven't gotten to this episode yet. Die. Yeah. I don't know, there's something about Jeremy Jordan with like a rocky punk uh instrumental behind his vocals that does something, and it's like a really good does something, you know? He sounds great with it. He's back. I know. He sounds great. I like it. Also, I'm gonna get a bunch of wood and cook it. To get charcoal. Because I need it. I need it
I'm
for
back.
decoration purposes. Hey.
I just hurt my hand.
You what? What happened?
I just hurt my hand.
Oh my goodness.
I got my hand stuck in the washing machine,
Oh.
and now it's black. Because my mother bought a new washing machine, and I was trying to put it with my father, and I stuck her between the washing machine and the wall. Don't laugh. It hurts.
I'm sorry. I'm keep hearing my phone fall. But between that and just seeing ink go, huh, bro?
I sent you the photo.
Great. Hold on. I have to open it on my phone. Oh, it's just a little bit of black. You're fine. Like a little bruise. You're okay. It's teeny
Ow.
tiny. You're fine.
It's teeny tiny. Fuck.
Teeny tiny. You're fine.
Uh, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
You're okay. Don't
I'll
worry.
probably I'll probably can't use my middle finger for a while, but
Well, it's okay.
middle fingers to the world. Okay. I ended watching. Let's see. Start streaming.
I got us more string.
Yes,
Only 2
me
string,
too.
but it's more string.
And I got this potato.
Yeah.
Potato.
I want you to know that Ink was screaming in my chat because I was working, down below.
Whoa.
Um,
Down below.
and because I was
Down
like, mind your
under.
business, and he goes, I will not mind my business. What are you doing? Guards, he's building a lab. He's gonna steal my blood.
Ah, yes.
I never said shit about stealing his blood, by the way. I want that known.
And I'm helping.
Now I'm helping. 6 feet under the ground below. She called your name before she went, but I guess you weren't listening.
Okay, let me open the thing. Let me just start stream. Put some music on. Okay. There we go.
They're conspiring against me, I'm telling.
Head.
Apparently we're conspiring against Ink. Rusty. Apparently he's telling Rusty.
Uh,
I don't know who he's gonna tell.
what are you gonna tell?
Who is he gonna tell? I've
Are
never
you
once claimed to
gonna
be a good person.
are you gonna tell Leloid?
Lloyd.
Leloid.
Lloyd. L-L-O-Y-D. I named you. You ruined my life. How could I ruin your life? I wasn't even there.
There. I was gonna type now Leloid instead of now live.
I can't do this. I can't do this. I need new partners.
Leloid.
I named you. You ruined my life. How could I ruin your life? I wasn't even there.
Who was it there?
I love the way he says it. It's so silly.
And Gandalf being Jackie Chan's voicing.
Oh.
Wait, different movies from the Lego Movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, fuck. Edit.
I need a bunch more wood. I need so much wood, actually.
Delete. I put streaming 2 times on the thing.
Oh, you goober.
My hand.
Yeah, it's okay. You'll be okay. Don't worry. You're fine. Ink, we have a fishing rod for you for whenever it is that you come back online. Hopefully after work today. Listen, you can cry all you want. I'm emotionally distant with this character, so... D is an emotionally distant character. You ain't gonna get any sympathy from his ass.
Oh. And Rusty only recognizes people of his own cerebral capacity.
Damn.
So just you.
Damn, that's funny. Ink, I said we have a fishing rod for you for whenever it is you get back on. Hopefully tonight after you get home from work.
Eventually, when we get another Joker, if it's Nobu, I'm never gonna tell his name right.
I didn't listen. My brain just keeps looking at him and going, Paraday. That's who that is.
No.
My brain does not lock into his character, it's just Paraday. That's who that is.
No, I'm just gonna call him Nerd or Nord or. It's gonna start with an N, but never
It's
the
not
right
gonna be his
name.
actual name.
Yeah.
No, because I think it's really funny. And I love it goes, y'all have to get me for real. Rusty doesn't even recognize me. I love Ink. I love Ink so much.
Guys, you can use the nickname again. It won't show up above you, but you can check the tab.
Yeah.
Yes. So no need. Ah, it's starting to sting now.
Pat, 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 pat.
Yeah, I'm gonna make the wood farm now.
Okay, cool. That's good because I'm gonna go grab a bunch of wood that I need for these campfires for my little creation downstairs in the sub basement. Oink. Anyway. Look at the sub basement. Don't worry about it. You know, asking questions is pointless. Ink. You're not a higher being. So obviously you're not gonna get answers. You have to be a higher being of intelligence to get answers. I don't know what I'm saying. I really don't know what I'm saying. Out of character, I have no fucking clue what I'm saying. I am the highest. Well... Ooh, the rain is lagging me the fuck out. Okay, anyway. We're fine. I just got lagged out by rain.
Ha! Nerd.
Great. Nice.
Okay. I'm gonna start. Okay.
4 of these, which is fine. Oh, here. Have some saplings for your tree farm. Oh, I do want a fun fact,
Nice.
Hank. I do. I want a very fun fact.
I'm gonna need.
You give me a fun fact, I'll give you a fun fact. How about that?
I'm gonna need 55 pistons.
That is so many fucking pistons!
Yes.
Oh my god. Technically a klepto. What a vibe.
And we are out of iron, right?
I have 17 on hand. Hold on, let me come back up.
I think there's 3 ingots in the mob farm. I'm gonna get it.
Okay.
I'll probably have to go get some more.
Have you buried all your children? Only so I say. Well, see, you said that 9, 14, 11 is a klepto, and all I can think of is Kleptomania Crow, which is a song on Spotify. Okay, so we have 5 ingots here, and there's 17 cooking. Look, I'm in trouble in the first place. Oh, baby. What a funny song to start playing, by the way. Okay. We'll do that. But I don't, because I don't need.
It's raining like the Dickens.
So I'm not gonna use like a ton of campfires. I'm gonna place them out strategically down here. Trying, feel like I'm flying. I feel like I'm dying. Quietly directing me blindly. Afraid of what might be. I feel like I'm dying.
You seem to be
So,
burning.
so what I'm doing, I didn't unmute when I said this before. Is I'm placing just campfires strategically around instead of everywhere, so that one, it doesn't burn up a bunch of resources, and two, because I think it'd look really cool.
Gotcha.
Hi.
Hi.
Because see these go on
Mm-hmm.
top, right? So the
Ah.
floor will be like this, but
Oh, but it's gonna be seen. Damn.
this is why, because we have gravel and we have sand. I'm
Huh?
We have gravel and sand, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try to cover it up
How?
by making concrete.
Oh, do we have enough sand for it?
We can get some.
Not enough, but
If push comes to shove, I can always just like put deep slate down under there with the things.
okay. So where do you live the steel here?
So there's
The
5 ingots in there, and then the rest just finished cooking.
okay. I don't remember how to make a piston.
One
Let's
iron
see.
ingot, one redstone dust,
Yeah.
and
So I need
7 cobble.
13 more ingots. No, 23 more ingots.
Jesus. I'm gonna go down and get more cobblestone. So I'll probably just put. Okay, I could also move because you can still get the smoke from like if they're underneath like top slabs, right?
Mm-hmm. I think.
I think. So what if I just put like slabs underneath the grates and then put the campfires underneath the slabs?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'll see. Figure it out.
Does it work? Oh, I was gonna say, does it work with carpets? But yeah, carpets. I'm gonna get some ingots down
Okay,
below.
be careful. 0, 0. He's so
You know
handsome. He's
me,
my
I'm
hero.
not careful.
I know. 1800. He's so handsome. He's our hero. 1800. Give me this. Pick this back up. I need to bring a fucking crafting table down here. There you go. 800. 1800. He's so handsome. Our hero. I put it there. kind of works.
I'm gonna enchant the iron pickaxe with fortune,
Okay.
so you get more iron.
Alright, back here.
So do you have sticks?
I have a stick.
Ah.
Hold on. Where the... Oh, there you are. Hello.
Hello.
Here's a stick.
Oh wow.
My one stick. So slabs kind of work with the grates.
Mm-hmm. Oh wait, I forgot the enchanting book. Fortune.
It kind of works.
So that,
I...
that, bang, and then here and fortune.
could do that. An upside down stair. Ooh, upside down stair might work. Ink here. Maybe.
Well, yeah, probably. No,
Let me
it
turn it.
doesn't.
Let me
Oh,
turn it. Let me
wait.
turn it. Let me turn it. Let me turn it. If I turn it like that, maybe? Like, it comes through on occasion with the single poop, right? It comes through on occasion, right? Just in general, so... I think slabs and stairs work.
No.
It doesn't need to be billowing all the time, it just, like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that works.
Wait, let me go get some more iron.
Uh, Put that there. Put it. Yeah. And then these will oxidize. Oh, look really cool. Not Phantom of the Opera playing again. This is really funny. Yeah, but in the slabs. Yeah, I guess it's because it's 2 blocks above it. If it was just the 1 block, I guess it would be fine. But it's fine. It'll still look okay. He went out to grab. I'm gonna grab wood while he's gone. Now I find the phantom of the opera is there inside my mind. Ba-ba-bum. I also still have no clue what to put on that island. No, I clicked 2. Motherfucker. To be fair, it's just like a little room to go into the lab, so it doesn't have to be perfect. But also it does. But also it does, because it's me, and if it doesn't look good, I will have a breakdown, so. There we go. Okay, so then we go here with it. And then I'm gonna need to go back up and make more slabs. Unfortunately, I can't listen to this song without thinking of Twilight. Come on. Okay. We'll be fine. Ooh, baby, I'm a fool for you. If I have to go get more deep slate, I will. I just don't want to have to. This one there, there. That should be good. With the locals' wishes, I can see us being sanctified, store stuffed. Then we have extra campfires for whatever we need. Need Nyum. Yeah, so this will just okay. Alright. Okay, alright. Okay, alright, okay, alright. Of the system. I am getting messages. Ooh. We're getting groups. Being a little baby works. That's a joke. That's a joke. That's a joke. That's such a joke. Do that. Okay. Fine. It's fine. Fine. Three. Okay. I need this. 4 liter. I need to go down. I think I got all the copper over here. Yeah. We need this. We sitting here like, we need coal. We need the coal. We really need the coal. I need the coal. No, stop it. Me too. I'd be the same way. Delicious copper.
Oh
You know, I
hi.
kinda like... I was about to... Yeah! Yeah! I need this, I need this, I need it so bad. Oh god, I have no room. Hold on. Here you go. Have these. In return.
And you have these.
I have no room. I have no room for them. I have no room for them at all. I'll come back. So much
I
copper.
hear a child.
It's probably the one in the water.
No, it's not the villager child cry.
Oh.
And I also got some coal with that.
Oh, that's so good. We need it.
I got the stacks of coal.
Oh, that's so good. I started working on the walls of my thing, so I really need copper.
Okay, ores. I put the raw iron in the chest.
Oh. I got the floor finished.
Nice. I got 61 iron,
Ooh.
raw iron.
That's so
And
good.
every furnace is being used.
For iron. Yeah. Not for iron, for copper. Sorry. Here. We have so much fucking stone. We can...
Stone, yes. I have stone on me.
I would say, let's just make a row. Like, let's make a wall of furnaces. Here, I will move this. I'll put this here for right now.
Okay, and then tick.
There we go.
So I need what else do I need?
Put it in this corner. Better hustle, sleep away. Plentiful day after day after day after day after day. No, I don't need that. I need one that doesn't use the copper. The What do you need?
this one. Yeah. That doesn't use an observer.
Don't need it all, I don't need it all, but
Perfect. I got exactly 50. But now I need wood. Not my color G. Oh, I'm missing redstone. Okay, I got 6. I need more wood.
Stopping mid build to jam out to Baby No Money. $. Maybe and no $. Damn, HIM. The Gen Z M.
Still not enough. Damn. Need to go cut more wood. Just a little bit.
Man centipede, please run, sleep. Time was a high. I like it for the plot. Tell me what the plot's about. Says 3 people asked to my goal. You son save me. I don't want the red flag. I don't want to get stabbed. I'm centipede is a one of course. Gonna be the main course. Why are you blinking so much? Here, let me get it out. No, thank you. I don't want to die. Is your date as a freak? No. Very good then. Bon appetit. And I'm looking for
Just
excuses.
a little bit, just a little bit.
I'm gonna close. I'm gonna close this
What do
up.
I need? Yes.
Just gonna close that up for right now.
And this. Okay, I got the 50. Now I need some.
Down there. Centipede, human centipede.
Yeah, I need that. I need some sticks.
I was gonna say I have sticks. No, I don't.
I don't
Not.
think
I
this will be
did.
enough, but
I did have sticks. I do not anymore.
let's see.
Human centipede.
Okay, I need a dispenser.
Oh, we have
Yes.
so much lapis now. You know, we can turn this all into blocks.
Yes. I mean, we have space, so I didn't put it in blocks.
That's fair.
Okay, so we have a bunch of bows in the farm that I'm gonna use.
Okay.
I need redstone for that, right?
Yes, I believe so.
And stone. There.
Mm-hmm.
Got a stack. Uh, I'm gonna make a crafting table to be with me,
Oh, yeah.
so I can craft
I
while
know, I made one. I was like, I need to fucking make a crafting table, man, to put down there.
Mojang needs to make a portable crafting table.
Oh, that'd be so nice. Also, we
Okay.
are getting group chat back. I did. Apparently, the group function was accidentally messed with
Oh.
while mods were setting up stuff.
Okay.
We're
So.
building the tree farm over here.
No, I'm just getting some bows,
Ah,
so I don't have to craft them.
I think there's some in the armor chest too. Oh,
That,
golden armor.
that, 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 and the other ones are enchanted, so I'll leave them there
Power unbreaking.
for now.
Oof.
Okay, so
Leave
where should I do the wood farm?
That's such a great question. Do you think the floating island would be big enough?
I don't think so.
Do you think? Because we could see about making it bigger and then
Hi.
putting it up there.
Hello.
Hi.
What? Can you explain me this?
What?
Is that Casa Estelar?
Yes.
Spanish, yeah.
Spanish. Oh,
Because we got a new member.
do we?
Yes.
And is it Spanish?
Yes.
Where's the Portuguese here?
Don't look at
Yes.
me. I only speak one language.
Yes, Dr. D. Where is the Portuguese?
That's not my name, and don't call me that. And I only speak one language fluently, so.
Okay, I'll accept that.
One language that you
What
know,
do
anyway.
what do we get here?
A floating island.
A floating. That's
Yeah,
more like a spike.
I can make
Yeah,
it bigger if we want
it-
to. I'd have to make the hole bigger down here too, unfortunately.
because it's the machine is more wider than taller.
Mm-hmm.
The what?
I'm gonna make a tree farm.
How big
Tree
is
farm.
it?
I mean, it has
15
10.
centimeters.
It's 10 wide.
So it's 10 by.
It's like 10 a 10 row of pistons.
Okay.
And then and the piston can push until 9 blocks, I think.
Okay. So
So
not
it's
that.
it's 10 by 9.
Well,
then.
God. No.
And a little
This...
bit more because it needs the firing mechanic for the.
Well, because this
Ow, my
is
hand.
1, 2, 3,
Ow, my hand. Fuck.
6.
Don't stick your hand
So
inside.
this is because this is
No,
supposed to
yeah,
be.
I stuck my hand earlier.
I'm pretty sure this is 12 all the way around on the island
Hmm.
because it's 6 on both sides,
Okay.
and then 1, 3, 4,
Maybe you
5.
can increase
Oh, it's 12 by 10, I think.
maybe you can increase the island.
Yeah. If you go from the middle, it's 10 on either. It's 12 on either side. If you don't go from the
Yeah,
middle, it's 10 on
it
either
needs to
side.
be like it needs to be like 2 or 3 more blocks wide.
Yeah. Well, I built it, so if you would like to increase it, you can.
How do you get up there?
I didn't make a way up yet. That's what I was working on. I was working on thinking
Uh,
it over.
Use dirt.
What I might do is
yeah. For
because we
now,
have
I have to
water,
do that.
so I might do
Yeah.
like a stream into like a little lake. Then you can just climb
Mm-hmm.
up the stream.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That means I have to get up there. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Let me.
So
So, I'm. I'm just gonna make it wider, and then you have to help me do the bottom.
that's fine. I can do that. It's okay. I can set
Gonna.
up the little pond while you're doing that. You'll just have to tell me
Yeah.
what side you want it.
Yeah. Okay. So,
So we need
uh,
bucket.
I'm gonna put the enchanted pickaxe here.
Okay.
So because we need to find mending
Uh,
to put on the
I really wish we could take
pickaxe.
I really wish we could take the enchantments that we have on like an item and take them off onto a book,
Yeah. I got you.
but we can't. And it's really annoying.
What's this here? What's this? Huh?
A room to sleep on.
A room.
That's our loft.
Lock. Is the house already ready? Like
Yeah.
done?
Yeah, it's done. Except
Alright,
for the
alright,
loft.
I mean,
It's
almost.
done, but
Yeah, it needs furniture.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, just the loft does. The rest, well, and the bedroom in the basement, but. So you could probably go from up here, unless you want to go over there.
What?
Do you want to get up from over, like, where you were?
I mean, it was just to getting up. I'm just gonna make it wider.
Okay. Alright, you make it wider, and then I will build the pond based off of that.
What should I do?
It's a great question.
Because we're all here, the mob farm won't work, right?
It
Okay.
might?
Okay, I see.
No. I was because we're really trying to get another chicken jockey to get chickens.
It
I
should
have to
still
get
work
my
if one of us
eggs.
is over there.
Is
I'll be
it?
like, okay.
Because if you get a chicken jockey, name the chicken. I have a name tag.
Give me the
Here you
name
go.
tag.
You're gonna love the name.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Nice.
the chickens that you get from jockeys don't spawn eggs naturally.
Yeah, they don't give
So we're
eggs.
trying to get another one so we can breed them.
Okay.
So once you get
I'll see.
him, bring him to the barn right there.
All right. It's with seeds, right?
Yeah, seeds.
That I
Wheat seeds.
can extract. Okay.
Yes.
So you can grab
Ah,
some from
I
the
have one.
farm.
There's a lead. There's a lead on the one of the chests inside.
Yeah, it's in the miscellaneous
Okay,
chest, the
okay.
first one.
Okay.
I feel like an old man. Every time I move my arm, my shoulder like cracks.
You want to talk about it?
No. Hello? There's a
Do,
man
do
here.
you do you really want to talk about it?
There's a man here. He's got glowstone.
Oh,
He's got
I
glowstone.
don't think we need glowstone. Ah! Die!
He's also got. He's got paws.
Man, I just fell off the bed.
That seems
You
about
fell
right.
off what?
I'm literally sleeping on the ground.
Oh, that does that sometimes.
Yeah.
Hey, can you bring another name tag in? Over. Named.
Do I have that? Okay, I'll
There's-
see.
There's a
one-
bunch of them in the
Yeah, there's like
miscellaneous.
11 in the chest in the basement.
Are you gonna name the?
I'm gonna name the Wandering Trader.
I already have here.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It despawns even with the.
Does he? Oh, that's so sad. I accidentally
Yeah.
hit him. Whoops. Well, I'm
Oh,
gonna kill
zombie.
him then.
Because when you put him in the boat, it despawn. So
Well,
the
but he
name tag is
wasn't
gonna
name
be the same.
tagged.
I mean, the zombie the zombie villagers aren't name tagged, and they're not disappearing.
That's true. Where'd he go?
Why are you not dead? Get out of here!
Oh, where is he?
I'm being
I'll get him.
harassed. I need a cat. I need an emotional support cat.
Where is he? I'll get him.
I got him. I got him. No when, don't know where. Meet again some sunny day.
Anyway. We have leads now. Isn't that so cool?
Nice.
We have so many leads.
Lead the way.
So many leads. Huh.
God damn it! I'm so old.
Yeah, you are.
Rude.
Okay, well, you're the oldest one on the server, so I can say that.
You whippersnapper. Okay, should I increase it more?
To be fair, I don't technically need to adjust the hole or anything. If it's
Watch
just
out.
the dirt.
You almost hit me.
It wouldn't have hurt you. Don't worry. Where is he?
He died.
Good.
Gone.
I'm gonna
Reduced
collect
to
that.
atoms.
Listen, it wouldn't have hurt you anyway, alright? You're fine.
Oh, there's a pillager in that direction.
What about, yeah.
Oh, it disappeared.
There's a bunch over there. Yeah. Maybe
Are
they
there?
fell off. Did they fall off the side? Nope, they did not fall off the side. Hold on.
I don't know. They were near.
Bonk. Anyway, I took care of them.
There's creepers on top of the barn.
Ugh. I missed.
I need more dirt.
Missed again. How the fuck?
I get him.
Oh. Yeah, give me that. Bitch. Okay. Oh, there's a bat. Hello, sir.
Okay. Where is the way that I stopped? Well, yeah, this way. Yeah, I think this is okay for now.
Okay.
Just gonna
I
fill this
will
up.
work on a little lake then, or a little pond. Because we can make more of the islands and then like connect them. But where do you want to
Yes.
come up from?
Let me build the farm first, then we'll do that.
Okay.
Get away from me! Get away! Stranger danger!
Nice. Fuck. I missed every fucking shot. That sucked.
You gotta get cute, kid.
I know.
Okay, so let me start. I'll put the pistons down first, so that I have a way to do it. So let's see, like this, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I said 50. I need 55. Fuck.
just take a break. Why don't you put your hands in mine and pull you down as you see? Just something to stop talking. Telling you it's nothing. You're talking crazy. Is it me or are you an idiot? And my question. See, I'm here. Get me out of here. Find me, you will never try to see pathetic on the screen.
Can you put some water down?
Yeah, on my way.
I'm gonna die.
Hey. Where do you want me to put it down?
Hey.
Right here?
Yeah.
Fuck my hole.
What happened?
The lights are gone.
What happened? Fell in the hole.
I knocked the lights out.
He fell in the hole. Now I appreciate scaffolding.
Yeah, literally, listen. I was building this and I was like, I need fucking scaffolding. This sucks. Angled up. Angled up.
Okay.
Ow. You know, because I'm pretty sure Mystery's the Joker for the factory. I should message him and see if he'll bring bamboo if there is any.
No.
See if they'll bring it with them.
All right. So. Okay, I need to make 5 more pistons.
Okay.
And then I need to make the dispenser.
Oh. Since you.
I haven't. The. Oh!
Oh. Angled up. Angled up.
Okay. Oh, it is. What does it? Why does it not do the thing? Even this one. Oh, I have a. Oh.
Oh.
Okay, so 5.
Back down. And no is a no-no.
Okay, so the. What do I do not have?
I fucked it up.
Oh, I don't know.
Fucked it up. Oh.
I need 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No more, no
Oh,
less.
goober.
I take this redstone torch. Um, Let me check. What do I need? I'm gonna take some. Where would I do? I do have that. Yeah, I'm gonna. Do you have the bucket?
I do. Do you need it?
Yeah,
Here. I'm
I'm gonna make
behind you.
the.
Behind you. You go.
Gonna make the water the way up.
Okay. Cool. I say walking just extremely close behind. I'm sure if I sat down and asked you, well, you really wouldn't mind.
Yeah, bud.
Yep. It's character playlist day, don't you know?
Don't you know?
Me sitting here, no. Me? Was that a vampires reference? You, who hasn't seen Vampires SMP yet? Begins to see what I can find. Be together, yes, forever we goodbye. No way yet, but you love me and I love you the same.
I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna take the water down to replace it again.
Okay.
There's a little bit of a mess down there.
Okay. Well, that seems accurate. Coming up to close out my thing so that I can go get more deep state. So we're here.
So here, the dispenser.
Alright, I'm going down to the mine. If you need me, text me. Marching death. That's how you sound, you little weirdo. I'm necromancing every instance, and no one can stop you to try. Man, guys, I love mining. Isn't it so good? Isn't it so great? Listen, all my streams from this week, I am putting together in one big video. For like, isn't it so good? I'm gonna put like together in one big video. And I'm just gonna speed up the mining process every time, I think. Every time you have to see me go down to mine, I'm just gonna speed it up. Because this is just, I'm gonna skip this song. Yeah, here. I don't know what this is. Okay, that's fine. So 10-minute time lapse, 10 minute of actual content. Yeah. Yeah. That's actually, yeah. Listen, I'll get some cinematic shots in there, don't worry. I have cinematic shots from the first day before I crashed during lore. Come on, shoot faster, a little bit of energy, yeah. Wanna try something fun right now. Take to ashes and see what Pow Pow thinks. Pathetic weakness, along 'cause you'll get jinxed. Okay, Ink, when you get home, I will, out of character, show you the basement. The sub-basement to the basement. You don't get to see it in character, but you get to see it out of character. In character, it's my space. Oh, but not in character. No, not in character, because it's my space, and I don't want you in there unless I need you. No, because in character, I don't need people in my space unless we're playing a game. Yeah, that's fine. Ideally, I'll never be in there then. Exactly. Ideally. Unless I need you. Which, I might. I mean, you know. You might be of use to me. No. Yes. Oh, you know what? You know what I have to do? You know what I have to do? I have to make a holiday skin. I have to show up in like a little Halloween sweater over top of my bodysuit. The scientists used up all my usefulness. Actually, I don't think that they did. Too late. No. Oh no. I think I'm just in time, actually. Fun fact. Oh no, I think I'm just in time. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, this should be good for right now. Oh yeah. I am creation, both haunted and holy, made in glory. Make my own secret space then. I'm sure. What? Where did that go? I hate people. I mean, what? See, now this is where the problem lies. You know, you can't just eat people. You know, like Rusty.
Yes.
Rusty, the experiment's threatening to eat people again.
Who?
The experiment.
Tell the experiment that will experiment on him if he tries something.
My rotten flesh
So,
den. Ew.
bad news. I got bad news. I can't do the farm that I'm gonna do because he needs a quartz. He needs a comparator.
No.
So I have to do another one that doesn't require comparators.
Gross.
But it's bigger, I think.
Great. Ink says, oh yeah, because we were talking, because I was mining, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they go, I'll make my own secret space then, and eat people. I mean, what? And then he goes, my rotten flesh den, lol. And then you said what you said, and he goes, no, I'm good, thanks. Do that for right now. See how much.
Okay, at least my hand is not black anymore.
Yeah, is the bruising going away, old man?
It's getting red now.
Okay, people's bruising is dying down, guys. It's fine. We're fine.
Ah, fuck! This one needs an absorber. An absorber. Fuck.
You can't experiment on me. I'm just a little guy. I've been all experimented
Good.
out.
Yo,
No.
Rusty.
We didn't said that we need an observer.
This mob farm is so not effective.
It works best if we are all in the same place.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think not.
No, if you go all there, the farm starts to work.
Oh, okay.
It's because of being on server.
She really.
Yeah. Fuck.
So
And
what's
I can't do any tree farm.
why?
Requires quartz.
Shit, we can't go. Yeah.
I'm trying to find one that doesn't require quartz, but it's hard.
Well, we could do just the hard work. You know, like by hands.
Yeah. I was gonna make the infinite glitch with the TNT, but yeah, it requires quartz also.
Yeah, sure. Besides, I don't know if this is against, you know, but whatever.
Yeah. Do
Oh,
you
I have two balls here, like unbreaking.
do what?
I have two balls with unbreaking one.
No, I killed those. You got some enchantments here too in the dock. I got fishing rods if you need any.
Okay, nice. Okay, that's okay. Right.
The last book is good for a sword.
Yeah.
Breaking and sharpness.
I have a bow with power 4. Yeah. It was on the first day,
Mm-hmm.
and I have
Yeah,
this unpacking.
I know what was it. Yeah, I've been adding bows to mine.
Okay.
So I have power 5, flame, and punch 2.
All right.
I haven't found one with unbreaking. Ah, fuck.
I'll go back to the farm.
Ah. It's really starting to hurt.
There. Pat, pat.
So now I don't know what to do.
You can work in the basement with me if you want.
Let me check if I can. Let me see if I can figure out something.
No, you're good.
Before I need more redstone. That's what I was coming down to.
And do you want to come see the sub basement when you're done?
Yeah. I'm just sad. My plans foiled again.
I know. It sucks.
Blast! Me plans foiled again.
Very orange in here, but that'll change. Oh, Hannah.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm not on the PC.
What the fuck is this?
Don't worry about it. You
Is
weren't
this a
supposed
mega
to come down
furnace?
here. No. You weren't
Okay.
supposed to come down here.
Okay, I don't
worry
see
about this.
nothing.
Yeah.
Alright. I guess I will play with the balls inside my house.
Can't I do that here? Oh no, because it needs the yeah. Can I do like this? Let me just do one there. If I do this, if I put one here, no. If I do this, no. Wait, if I do this and then put it
Yeah?
here? No.
Hi, good morning. Hi, hello. You're so warm.
Yeah, the pushing mechanism is working, but the part that's gonna push the trees to the pushing mechanism, it needs the quartz.
Okay.
We need one component to finish the farm.
This sucks.
Do the wandering traders sell quartz?
I think they can.
Oh, there's another more villagers.
Kill them. See all that they see. You got it, baby? You good? Okay. Girl.
So yeah. The
Yeah.
wood farm is finished, but not operational.
Right.
It needs a key component. Oh, look at this! I got a bad omen bottle.
Oh, wow. We have so many of them.
Yeah,
We have 6 of
because I
them.
was trying to do it like the pushing mechanism, but it's gonna be above the trees, so it doesn't work
Mm-hmm.
where it needs to be planted.
Well, you know that I turned around and saw Jester in the sub basement.
Hmm.
He was like crouched in the sub basement, and I just turned and went, "You're not supposed to be in here." And he ran off.
Poor guy.
Listen, I feel bad, but you're not supposed to be in there.
These
Not yet,
here.
anyway. Not yet, anyway. Eventually, but not yet.
Another banner.
Wow.
So okay. Oh, I got some gravel too.
Okay. Well, that goes on the bottom of the dirt sand gravel chest.
Got 2 sticks.
Oh, that's so good.
And the diorite goes where?
Stone chest. Toss in one of them, really.
Yeah, it's just 2. I'm gonna put the bucket in the miscellaneous.
Cool. Did you set up
That's
a
it.
way to get up there?
Yes.
Cool. Perfect.
What do I need more? I'm gonna put the carpets in the miscellaneous for now.
Okay. How many more do you need? 4.
I only have 3.
Oh.
I need 33 more.
Do you want to come down and see the basement?
Oh yeah, sorry.
You're good.
I was so focused
You're so
and
focused. It's fine. It's
so
fine.
and so sad that I can't finish the wood farm. Ooh, looks like
Okay.
the trials.
Yeah. Doesn't it look cool though? Oh, I love this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just like the entrance into the lab. It's
Oh
just
yeah.
supposed to be like a
Mm-hmm.
false, like a hey. There's probably gonna be like a sign or two up being like, hey, you shouldn't be down here. You need to leave. And then this is gonna go into the
There,
main lab, and there's gonna be like
and the a thing saying it's definitely not the secret lair
no
entrance.
evil person ahead.
Even person ahead. Bring
Evil,
cookies.
evil, evil eldritch being ahead. Enter at your own risk.
Damn. I have one of those things in my room.
Yeah.
It says shush gaming in progress. Leave food and drink at the door, then go away. Enter at your own risk.
That's so funny.
Well, I can't do anything else. I'm gonna go get to Jester
Okay.
and help him with the mobs. Gonna bring some food.
Food. An idea, actually. Hold on. Let me. Actually, no. Hold on. Let me get the roof in first. Listen, there you can never have too much deep slate. No matter what anybody says. Oh, copper. Sing. I know if we had more copper that I could spare, I just used chiseled copper for the roof. I think that would be fun. We don't.
Okay, if I can't do the wood farm right now, let's start with the food farm.
Okay.
Because that, I mean, I can't automate it, but I can make the place. So I need the bucket, and I need a hoe.
Hello. I'm a hoe. Sorry. Whoa. Who
What?
said that?
Who said that?
Who said that?
Anyway.
Me, I love because when I play I lean back in my chair, right? So when I did the who said that, I leaned forward. Who said that?
Who said that?
Ooh.
The voice is in my head.
It's the voices. The voices.
The voices.
Baby, like you're gonna die. Cause on the inside could be an antidote tonight. I have to get more fucking deep slate.
So what? I was gonna do the farm in front of the thing or on the side.
It should. Hold on, I'm on my way out.
Like here?
Where the fuck are you? Oh, there you are. Yeah, so like over around where the hole is, right?
Mm. So I need to substitute this with
terraforming
Yay!
time.
Terraforming time. Let me grab some dirt.
Your desire, I could cure your disease. If you will see me, down like 1, 2, 3, jump back in ecstasy.
So I need dirt. I need pickaxes. I need. Okay, pickaxes we got. I need a shovel. But for that, I need wood.
Oh, do you need sticks? I have 6.
I got it.
Okay. Come back down then. Come back down to my evil lair.
Okay. Evil layer.
Who said
And
that?
you don't. And you didn't invited me.
No, I didn't. It was my spot.
Damn.
My evil lair. Get your own. I'm just kidding. You can share it with me.
I was gonna say, I built your door.
No, I know you can share it. It's a little scientist lab. Of course you can share it with me. We're one and the same. It's Ink goes so you admit it. It's an evil lair. Yeah, so there's gonna be signs up down there. Don't come in, evil lair.
No, surely it's not an evil layer. You heard it wrong. You heard it backwards. It's a
You did.
live layer. No,
Yeah.
a live rail.
Live rail, yeah.
Yes, it's a
Live rail.
live
You
rail.
heard it backwards. It's a live rail. God. Speaking of, I need... Can you go get more fucking deep slate? It's fine. I'm gonna put the copper away for now. It's okay, Ink. You'll be fine. Don't worry, Ink. You won't go down there. Yet. I mean, you know, as long as you're so good and so cool and calm and collected, and you... and you listen and behave, you'll be fine. That was a zombie. That's what that was. And my little strained voice just squeaked. Because it's a strained voice and it does that. I'm the one who needs to behave. I didn't do anything wrong, so yeah, I think you are. Well, it's strained, like always, so probably. My voice needs to rest. So you said yeah. I didn't say yet. I didn't say that at all. Also, I need to, you need to get on me about making my fucking mask for the movie. Because I haven't done it yet. Like, when you get home, we need to get into a call, and you need to just force me to sit down and make my fucking mask for the movie. Do I need to do it with you too? It's okay. We can work on it together. It's Thursday. It's movie night. I think it's Thursday. Yeah. Thursday. Probably. Yeah, same to me then. Yeah, exactly. That means, when I'm done here, I know that this is gonna be another, like, little time lapse, I fear, which is gonna be really funny. I'm gonna need to, make the paper mache stuff. So they give you an awful fright. Oh, it's right. Yeah, I need to make the little paper mache stuff so that I can do the mask and then put the mache on top of it and then paint it. So. And then I will get the tickets for the movie tomorrow. So. Just put paper mache is 2 days, you don't finish it in one night. Yeah, that's what I read. I should be good. I shouldn't need a lot of it, you know? I haven't used paper mache since, like, 3rd grade, by the way, so... paper mache. I mean, listen, it looks so cool. I just haven't done it in so long. You know? So, you know. I think the last time I did it, we had done it for like a balloon. Like we had put it on a balloon for class in like 3rd grade, 3rd or 4th grade. And we made it for, I think we made a basket. I don't remember much from school. I hated school. I did not like school as a child. Like, I liked it, but I also didn't like it, you know? I liked it because I got away from home. I didn't like it because I hated school. And I hated everything. I hated the concept of school. You know? It kind of pissed me off. Okay, that should be fine for right now. Do that.
I need more dirt.
Yeah. This. I have an idea. Ink and I were talking because we're gonna dress up for the FNAF movie.
Mm.
So we're doing Henry and William for the FNAF movie, and we were talking about masks.
Always come back.
Always come back.
No, you don't. You're dead. Die.
Now. Die now.
He's trying to pull a Chucky.
He's evil. Evil
No,
baby.
he's possessing a robot
That's true.
or a
Yeah.
doll.
Yeah. You know, I've never actually liked the Chucky movies.
We figured it out. William Afton is Chucky.
That's so funny. Alright, do you want to come see the basement?
Oh yeah.
I finished the roof.
Ow. Ooh.
And all of this will oxidize. So it'll all become green. Which, is the staple of every Disney villain, right?
Yes. But
Hmm?
when we get glowstone,
I can put the copper bulbs in.
yeah.
I know, that's why I
Oh yeah,
wanted to keep
there.
that wandering
Oh yeah,
tree. I
there's
wish they
copper
had
bulbs.
glowstone.
I always forget that there's no copper bulbs.
Yeah, because I can put those in instead of lanterns. Even though lanterns, lanterns make a fucking build, especially like something gothic.
Yeah.
Lanterns make that kind of build.
I always get scared of the doors.
Yeah.
Because I look at the doors and I think it's a creeper.
Oh no. No, it's just our oxidized copper doors. Hi, buddy.
So like I'm like, the fuck? There's a creeper here.
How to get in? We have doors.
How did you get up there?
That's so funny. If you're far enough away from Jester, his face just stops working. If you click tab.
Yeah.
If I tab and I'm far enough away from Jester, like to where he doesn't show up on my map, his face just doesn't spawn in.
To me, it just shows white.
Yeah, there's no face there. Which means his face is on the outer layer of his skin.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he knows that. That area is done. So now I need bigger. Mm.
Oh, I found iron ore. Let me get the fortune pickaxe. Because every iron counts.
Yes, every iron counts. We're skipping this one. Anyway. I'm trying to think of a black ballot. Please. Oh, yeah.
You gave me 3.
Whoa. So, okay, if you once we get quartz and
Hi,
we can do
Cora.
Huh? Cora in your chat?
Yeah.
Hi, Cora. Hello.
She's saying, "Oh my god, something else than ice and snow."
Oh my god. Echo, what's up? Hold on, I'm on my way. See, Cora, I told you this is the better group. This is the better group.
Yes, we have a floating island in progress.
Well, it was finished, and then somebody extended it.
With an yes, with an with a wood farm in progress.
Yeah. As soon as the nether opens up, ooh baby.
Oh baby! What the fuck? What the fuck?
Creeper,
I heard
I
it.
saved your life.
I didn't
saved
know
your
where
fucking
you
life.
went.
I saved your fucking life.
Should I close this all?
But, I mean, hold on. There's coal here.
A lot of coal.
Don't close me in here. I'll never be able to get out.
Let me out! Let me out!
I'm just a baby. Listen, I love.
Don't panic like.
Huh?
Don't panic like Hank.
Well.
I'm gonna start screaming like a baby goat.
Listen, I love tuning into my friends' streams, like on the server, and seeing where their things are. Woo! I fell. Fine. I'm fine. Ooh, copper. Anyway.
I can't copper. I can't copper. I can't copper anymore.
I know. Listen, that's all the sub-basement is. No, I love tuning into my friends' streams because then I can see, like, where they're at for their cubes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, man, we've got the better cube. And she's like, man, we really got off lucky.
The factory has what? Goats?
Yeah, I think it's like a mountain. I don't know. I haven't seen it, actually.
I saw a bit of Gupta's. Oh, I mean Thomas.
Of Gupta's stream. Hello, I'm out of the cave. We have a goat.
And then Core.
Well, yes, we do have a goat, Ink. It's you, but you don't drop horns when you run into walls, unfortunately.
And if you dropped horns, it would be colorful horns.
It would be. It'd be multicolored horns. What are you
And it would play.
Oh.
And it would play. And it would play. I'm not never give you up. We're gonna get you down.
No, see, no, because Ink's horns. When Ink drops their horns, right? Dropped one before the servers start. LOL. That's funny.
We finished exactly one building, and it's
broken.
isn't even my taste. The rest are construction sites.
Oh my god. Well,
Well,
we have a finished house and a barn.
Yes.
And a house for the Jokers, and a floating island, and a mob farm, and a working mine.
Our island didn't have any constructions in it.
Exactly. We built everything by hand because we're cool.
We built this city
on rock and roll.
Anyway.
No, when Ink drops their horn, right? If Ink drops a horn at any point, it just starts playing Undertale music.
Oh, yes.
It just starts playing like
Toriel's music.
It'll play like Heartache, or it'll play Honey I'm Home, which is not an Undertale song, but that's really funny. It'll play
Megalovania.
Yeah, if they're angry and they drop a horn, it plays Megalovania. Or like Asgore's theme if they're sad, which is Bergentrucken.
Yeah. Driver, yeah.
Plays Deltarune music too. Exactly. Yeah. Plays Deltarune music. Ink just plays music when they drop horns, but it's really funny instrumentals from games.
Driving in my car
Right after a beer.
Robbie.
Hey, that bump is shaped like a deer.
Like a deer. DUI.
DUI, how about you die? I'll go 100 miles an hour. Little did you know I'm filled
I
up on
filled
gas.
up on gas.
I'm a git, you're found making ass.
ass.
Pulverize as fuck with my Bergen
My
truck.
Bergen
It
truck.
seems you're out of luck.
They're out of luck.
Truck! Big Shot and World Revolving starts playing. Yeah, no, when Ink's not scared of us anymore and they drop a horn, Big Shot starts playing.
Just a minute.
You're good. I'm not afraid of you. Well, you will. You will be. Don't worry. Don't worry, buddy. You will be. Hmm? What? What? Somebody say something? I know, I didn't say anything. Did somebody say something? Ink? If that even is your name. Ink. I don't remember my name. Well, that seems like a personal issue, really. Well, I think not remembering your name is a you problem, frankly. A lame you problem, really. But a you problem, nonetheless. I never wanted this. Starting. It's starting to oxidize. I need to go grab signs. Need to go grab signs. There we go. Enter at your own risk. It's a private workspace. Solicitors will be removed by voice. Yes, Ink, that means you. Do not enter. Evil beings at work. Listen, I think this is really funny. I think it's really entertaining. What did I do? Well, you're a little goober. And I can't have you in here while we're working. But I don't want to die. You didn't do anything to me, I just don't want you in here while we're working. By I don't want you in here. My character doesn't want you in there. Doesn't want your character in there. I want you in here as much as possible. Because I love you so much.
Wow, I've been all this time here and I didn't die.
Wow.
Probably gonna have my hand is killing me.
Oh, buddy.
It's really hurting.
Yeah.
Ow! I'm being attacked.
You'll survive, I promise. Believe in you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm gonna end.
That's fair.
Fuck. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh. This is a problem. This is a problem. Uh-oh. and do something silly. Oh. Anyway. Oh, yeah. My stream paused for some reason. Anyway. Um... Okay, we'll probably be on for... We'll work for about 10 more minutes and then get off, I think. Just so that I can get my paper mache set up and ready for... And then get dogs out and, you know. You know how it be. Dub hubbers. This should be it. And also because I don't want to stream for 5 hours again today. Listen, guys, I love you. I love all of you so much. I do not want to stream again for 5 hours. I think 5 hours, for me, very tiring, especially when I'm just sitting staring at my screen straight for 5 hours. Very headache inducing, which sucks. So, you know. Okay, so it's gonna be a door here. Eliminate the youth. Everyone until you love them too. Find it, everyone until you love them too. This one. My mouse stopped working. Anyway. The dichotomy of these signs. I love that they are double-sided. I think it's my favorite thing. You know, I think this is better than the sub-basement we had in the Victorian house. Which I still love. I miss the Victorian house so much. So sad. Right, I need to put away that stone if I need it. There we go. What they say, Mom and Daddy are in love. Did I put the rest of those away? Or no, I used them. Yeah. Hold on. Scare us now. So send this by one more so that it matches. Scared of you. It's colder in the summertime. I'll lose my mind at least another 1,000 times. We'll make it another night. fine. It's fine. I can just go the long way. Three, 4, 6, 7. Nope, give me that back. 8. Wave. This song, I know, this is such a... It's a song. I love this song, actually. It's very good. I like CG5. Also, this is on the character playlist, so... Because this is character playlist, day. Free stream. My legacy... Oh. Okay. I think character plays for 9. No, I don't think you did. You should send it to me when you have a moment. And I'll put it in my Nullust playlist folder. What is this? Mm-hmm. Does. Okay. Oof. Alright, hold on. Wow. Alright. I will finish mining this out and then I will on stream. So it doesn't, I don't leave it. Just... Man, oh man. It's coming together so nicely, and we have lore stuff to do tomorrow, I'm pretty sure. Boom. There we go. Probably make this bigger if I get on later tonight. If I get on. I'll probably like extend it back more. It's the lab. This is the lab, so it's gonna be big. This is the warning. The other bird's the lab. Anyway. Yeah, let me pull stuff away and be good. Okay. Everything that I don't need is put away. Oh, jeez. There we go. Alright. Yeah, okay. Ooh. Wowza. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out. I hope it was fun. We've been going for 3 hours. Yeah. Excuse me, even 3 hours is a lot. I haven't streamed this long in forever. Like these over an hour long streams in forever. So, you know, it's really nice. It's really nice to be back and be able to do that. So, yeah. I'll probably be streaming again tomorrow. It'll probably be later than what I've been streaming this week because I'm pretty sure we have lore stuff going on. So that'll be 4 p.m. Eastern Standard, 9 p.m. UTC. Probably because I'm pretty sure that that's when the lore is going on. If not, you know, earlier/later. But I'm pretty sure tomorrow is when the lore stuff is. Excuse me, is happening. So yeah. And then we'll just see where it goes. Very excited. Yeah. So thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed. I will, after the lore stuff, I will cut all of this down and get it into one whole video for the week and then put it on YouTube. So yeah, expect that. And yeah. So thank you guys. I love you so much. Mwah. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.